Right, now the last piece you have to remove on here is the transformer, and it's behind this metal plate here, which is basically like a magnetic shield to stop it interfering with the motor. So if we just move the circuit board out of the way a little bit here, like that, you can see there's a screw there, there's a big screw there, and on the other side there's a big screw there. There's also two little screws as well. So basically what you need to do is just take out all of those screws, and when you take off the two side screws, this front piece here will come off. So just keep this front piece handy. More screws, yet another bag. So transformer you want right on this one. Now if you've noticed, I've removed all the three big screws, but I've left the two little screws in there because you don't need to take those little screws out. The whole unit will come out without those little screws to come out basically. That's the front piece that went round the front there, so don't lose that. And now the transformer should just come out like that. Right, now if you've done everything right so far, the power board and the transformer and the main board should all come out as one piece like that. So if you can take all the pieces out like that, you've done it right. If not, don't panic, it's probably just a cable tie or something like that. So just check around and make sure nothing's holding it in, but put that aside safe and mind the little voltage regulator because it's covered in shit. Okay, and last but not least, the bearing assembly here needs to come out. So take that out and put that aside, and there you go, there is your faceplate. Ta-da! There you go, there's your faceplate. So this will be a lot easier to spray now, and you can see now why I keep saying that, you know, it's not just a simple case of whipping the faceplate off. You know, it is the whole turntable is the faceplate. So there you go. When these are actually at the Technics factory, you know, this will go along production line, and everything will be bolted to this bit at a time as it goes along. So there you go. Now I appreciate this video is probably going to be in about 50,000 parts, and it's probably going to take about 10 centuries to upload. But hey, a lot of people have been asking me to do this video, so yeah. Right, so you're probably looking at this now and going, because all your bits of your turntable are just scattered around everywhere. So don't panic, I'm going to show you now how to put it all back together, which is pretty much the reverse order of how you took it apart. So let me move the camera and I'll show you. Right, so the last thing out is the first thing back in. So slot the bearing assembly back in, and you can see a little notch there, and there's a little extra piece on there, so you know what way it goes back in. Now next is the transformer, the power board and the main circuit board. So slot the transformer in first, which has little rubber pieces on, then slot over the main circuit board over the bearing assembly, and then seat the power board here, like that. Right, now actually you might want to just move the circuit board out of the way just for a minute to put this piece back in. Basically it just slots around the turntable, around the transformer, sorry, and you've got two holes there and there, and basically they line up with the two screw holes that are at the side. So just put that back in place, and get your packet that says transformer and get the screws out. Okay, so that's pretty self-explanatory, just put the screws for that back in. That's fairly straightforward. Right, now just put the main circuit board back in place, and you need to screw back on this voltage regulator here, which I'll get close up on. Right, now when you put this back on, what you want to do is put it in place like that, and then move it round in a circle to smear the thermal paste back on, and then it will cause suction, which should make it stick. And then just put this metal band back over the top, and then you've got the two screws which hold that in, so just bung the two screws back in like that. Right, now the next thing I would recommend doing is soldering the power cable back on. So first of all you need to thread it back through the hole. So lift up the faceplate and just thread that straight back through. Basically the reverse of how you put it through in the first place. And again, the metal plate on the bottom should go through the hole like that. And then you can go ahead and screw that plate back on now, the two screws that go in there, like that. Right, now you can see those wires there are pretty manky and they're all covered in solder, so you're not going to be able to solder those back on. So what you want to do is just cut those ends off like that. And now what you want to do is this little protective plastic over the cable itself, pull it forward slightly, and you want to trim a bit of that off like that, and then push it back over the cable like so. Right, now you're going to want to cut a bit of this black sleeving off. So to do that you need a sharp knife, like a craft knife or something like that, and you want to just put the wire against the blade, and then don't put hardly any pressure on that. You just want to run the blade around the wire gently, just to make a slight break in the cable, and then when you bend the cable like that, it should just reveal the cables inside. If it doesn't do that and you've still got a little bit joining, just run the blade over it very gently like that, but you don't want to actually cut the cables inside, so you want to be very careful. And then the sleeve just comes away like that. And what you want to do is you want to strip about, say, about 3/4 of an inch of the sleeving off of there. So I'll just quickly do that now. Doing the same thing, just roll the knife around the wire like that, and then pull the sleeve away. Right, now you can see I've done both of those now, so they're both stripped off, and what you need to do now is wrap them around the peg on the power board. So let me get the camera a bit closer. Right, now this can be quite fiddly, so what you've basically got to do is get those wires wrapped around the pegs. Now this is the bit where I'm going to tell you to be really careful. What you need to do is make sure you're getting the right way around. Okay, so blue goes on the N for neutral and brown goes on the L for live. Okay, the American model and the European model may have different colour wires, so just bear that in mind. So what you need to do is get it wrapped around the post. Sorry, I'm going to try and make it so you can see this. Just sort of wrap it round like that, so it's secure on there. Okay, so there's one, and you might be able to see me do this one a bit better actually. So just wrap it round like that, making sure it's not touching anything else. That's more important. If you need something else to help you wrap it round, just use like a blade of a knife or something. Okay, so once you've got those wrapped round, obviously that's not going to be good enough to leave like that. You need to actually solder these on now. Okay, so when you're soldering these, you need to make sure you've got a clean soldering tip with some fresh solder on it. And what you need to do is get the joint nice and hot and apply quite a bit of solder. This is probably going to take on here, but you need to make sure that the whole joint is basically covered in solder. Don't leave any of it not covered in solder. And that's two. There you go, so it's nice and strong on there now. Now make sure they're nice and sturdy on there and they're not going to come off, because that could be quite dangerous. Okay, obviously if you're not confident at doing this bit, either get somebody who is, or actually get an electrician to do this bit for you. Okay, I'm telling you how to do this bit, but I'm not recommending you do it yourself if you don't know how. So yeah, just a warning there.